It's time for us to have a little chat. A frank, honest little chat from time to time. And a 6-second soundbite or an Instagram reel isn't always the best place to do that. So I figured we may as well saturate an already saturated market with a podcast. This is Nat Chat, and I'm the Nationals member for Mildura, Jade Benham, and I'll be your host. It won't all be political though, don't worry. In fact, it'll probably be more community focused than anything, with some community superstars dropping in for a chat from time to time. But I thought it best to start with a word from our leaders to explain exactly who the Vic Nats are, what we're about, what we stand for, because in the infamous words of one of my favourite bands, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. First, we're chatting to Leader of the Nationals, Peter Walsh, and Deputy Leader, Emma Keeley. We can talk now. So this is the very first episode of our podcast called Nat Chat, working title, I think, here with Peter Walsh and Emma Keeley, Leader and Deputy Leader of the Victorian Nationals.
How are you, Jade?
Oh, wonderful.
Living the dream?
Absolutely, every day.
It's wonderful to be able to have a chat with you.
Isn't it?
You're so busy around this place in Parliament that it's hard to get you.
I know. But you two are as well. Like, it's not, we all are. I think this is a bit of a misconception about Parliament. Maybe it just comes from my husband, I don't know. They seem to think it's a holiday. What we do up here is, easy.
It comes from the fact that people don't see everyone in the chamber except for question time.
Yeah.
But as you found out, because you're very good at it, it's actually how you use your time here to talk to ministers' offices, to talk to their staff, to actually solve issues on behalf of people in your electorate. It's all the work that's done outside the chamber that's the most important stuff almost.
Yeah, even the hallway conversations. I've found I've been able to actually fix a lot of issues that might be just, a block in the department somewhere, just with a hallway chat or a coffee with a minister.
Well, the thing that's a really good tip for any MP is if you want to catch a minister, at certain times they're going to be scheduled to be on table duty and they cannot leave the table. And I find that's a perfect time to bring the letter from someone who can't get a response or sit down with them, explain what change you need done, and they can't leave you, so they have to listen. And we've had some really good outcomes, and I know you've done exactly the same thing, which has been great.
I actually did it with Minister Brooks today about some theatre group stuff that is happening in Mildura, and they need a place to live, and just went and had a chat. And I did say that when they came to meet with me. I'm like, oh, that's a hallway chat. That's a pretty easy one to put under his nose. And, a lot of the ministers, I find, if you build the right relationships in the right places, pretty easy to work with sometimes.
The majority of them are there for the same reason we are. There's a few hard noses that are hard to get on with, as you probably already realise, but the majority of the Labor Party come in to do good things the same as we do. We just have a different way of doing it.
Yeah, well, all right, let's talk about that now that you've opened the floodgates.
I don't think that's a floodgate.
No, probably not. It's probably a sensitive topic anyway, which we can talk about later. But when I joined the Nats, there was a lot of, and people still ask me now, why? Why the Nats? There's been, I think, a historical, I don't know whether it comes from the country party, probably with the older people that ask, maybe it does. They're like, you don't strike me as someone who's ultra conservative. That's one thing I get all the time. And it's almost, to me, I'm like, well, I'm not. I'm very pragmatic in my approach. Well, you've been around for 22 years now?
21, coming up 22, started 22.
Yeah. So you've seen the party evolve over the last 20 years. Has it been a...
Well, it has evolved substantially, and we can talk about that. But I actually don't think that what you're talking about was ever there. That basically the Nats are pragmatists.
Yeah.
So we've got a job to do to represent our communities, to try and get money for the hospital, for the footy club upgrade, for the kindergarten, whatever it is. Our guys are, and collective as a team, are pretty good at just focusing on what needs to be done for our communities. I think that's always been there. There was probably more of a agricultural base in the MPs that came in, but if you think about the group that's here now, myself and Tim McCurdy are the only two that have got an farming background. Basically, others have been raised on a farm, but they've had a career other than agriculture. So it's I don't think it's a change of attitude. It's just a change of the people that are here. I've seen some, and our communities have changed. The regional towns, cities are getting bigger, and our outlying smaller communities are getting less people. So we're there to represent everyone.
Do you think it was maybe a perception or maybe a misperception of the Nats from the community? Like if the community sees you that way, or do you think it's, whoever it might be, whether it be the Labor Party, Independents, the Greens or whoever painting us that way, or do you think it's just come from that farming, once we were...
At different times, though, everybody from the country is painted as a hick at some point in time,
absolutely.
which is so wrong. Our regional areas are so vibrant. There's always a good coffee somewhere. There is fantastic, interesting small businesses that are coming up. There are families doing interesting things from all around the world coming to work in our regions as well. I think there's a generalised misconception around what country Victoria looks like, and as a result the Nationals kind of go alongside with that because we are the strong voice for country Victoria. So because the Labor and the Liberal Party have mostly city seats, they don't understand really what goes on, but Nationals do, and so we try and be a strong voice and to tell the story in Parliament and in Melbourne over why country Victoria is an amazing place to live, work and do business. And that's something that we share with all of our communities and all our voters, our constituents, is they're trying to tell the same message as well.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And you're right, there is and always has been for as long as I can remember, grew up in the country, have lived in some of the biggest cities in the world, but choose to now live and work in the regions because honestly that's where... I suppose that's home, but that's where the best people are too, I think, without being nasty. But we get a bit of... I find that when you have... And we all know now, having fly-in, fly-out health staff, for every sector it has fly-in, fly-out staff. Sometimes when you have those consultants come in or whoever it might be, there's a little bit of city narcissism, like we are, like you said,
Yeah.
We've all been called a country hick at some point, and we're like, even I think it can be self-depreciating from food producers as well. Just go, I'm a dumb blocky. I'm like, hang on a minute. But
Anyone that does that underestimates those people because they are not that.
No,
they are very successful business people or professionals in whatever career they choose to be in your electorate, Mildura, Robinvale, wherever it is. They are very successful people.
I think they underestimate themselves a lot of times.
That's part of the Australian makeup, though, isn't it? Self-deprecating.
Well, yeah, I know, but maybe not. It doesn't apply to everyone, but I think for regional Australians it probably does.
A little less judgy perhaps as well, because you're in a small community. You can't afford to get into a little tiny social clique of people who are the same age as you and the same religion as you and the same ethnic background as you and the same wealth level as you. You generally have to work with everybody. And, that's something I reflect upon growing up in a small country town of 1,000 people. You didn't have a choice over who you spoke to, but it was a great cultural learning growing up that, everyone's equal. We all end up in the same place. So just treat people with respect, treat people the way you would like to be treated, and we can all be a little bit less judgy and just fight for what we all agree on and what we're unified about, and that's our communities.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think it's one of the advantages, many, but my kids, for example, especially living in Robinvale, so dynamic and culturally diverse. My kids have both gone through the Aboriginal co-op to do kinder and daycare. So to them, having them being the only blonde-haired, blue-eyed kids in there is normal to them. They go off to school and they've got, kids in there from every cultural background just about, from here across the Pacific and Southeast Asia, First Nations as well. So that's just normal to them. It's normal. Yeah.
We don't need to be lectured about acceptance.
Because
we understand it. We live it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we're all, and some of the conversations, and you might have had these as well. The Swan Hill Rural City Council over Australia Day had some great shared connections day because they've got people in there that actually just go, you know what, we just want to be invited. We want to talk about this stuff, and because to them it's just normal. They just want to be part of it.
I actually, the Australia Day breakfasts were a huge success for the last however long they were running, but I actually think their new model was a really good idea.
It was great, wasn't it?
It was time for a change.
Yeah.
And I think it worked brilliantly.
Yeah. And the citizenship ceremonies there, having elders there playing the didge, them handing over a native tree to plant and a gift, and the certificates to the new citizens, I thought was absolutely brilliant. They should be congratulated on that, I think. You were talking before about all of the Victorian Nats having previous careers. Emma, you were a CEO of a regional health service.
Yeah, and before that, the way I got into being a CEO of a hospital, I wasn't just an administrator. I actually studied biomedical science at uni. And when I finished Year 12, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So my first choice at uni was biomedical science, pathology, which everyone knows a lot more about after COVID. My second choice was architecture, so something very creative. And then my third choice was jazz, playing the saxophone.
What?
So I really, Walshy's nearly broken his neck looking over at me. So Jazz. And thank God I didn't get into that because...
Can you still play the saxophone now?
I haven't for a little while.
Have you still got one?
Yeah, I do.
Can you bring it in?
Oh, yeah, I can. I need some new reads, but yeah. Okay.
Some new what? Oh,
the
bit,
reeds, they're the bit that vibrates that makes the sound.
Wind instrument,
yeah. Yeah. And I ended up in biomedical science and I used that degree to travel around Australia, but really just up the guards. So I studied in Adelaide. I did my clinical placement in Mount Gambier. I put my hand up for the first scientific job that was advertised, which was in Alice Springs Hospital. An amazing experience. I was there for about 3 years and have seen some of those challenges we read about in the papers. I've seen all of that firsthand, and I don't think it's any better now than when I was there 20 years ago. I was then poached by Healthscope Pathology to open up a new laboratory with a private hospital in Darwin, and we did a bit of work out on community as well up at that time and did vet work too, which was good. And then
vet work?
Yeah, vet pathology.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's all the same analysis.
No, I knew the pathology stuff, did not know the jazz playing.
I know, he's still getting over that.
It's all blood.
It's all the same. Anyway, then came down to Melbourne, was regional lab manager for Victoria and Tassie for Healthscope Pathology. I was here for a couple of years and wanted to start a family. Knew that I wanted to raise a family in country Victoria because Melbourne has those challenges we spoke about earlier. So I had a job at Hamilton Hospital, a Western District Health Service for about a year. I was there managing business support and innovation, which is all around a health service being around the patient and not a patient moving between all those different silos and some of the problems that come up around that. And then I was very fortunate in that I was appointed as CEO of Eden Hope Hospital, which is a hospital that I was born in 32 years prior.
Wow.
So it was a whirlwind journey, but I feel like I crammed a lot of different things in terms of rural and regional equity around health and just some of the challenges around delivering a health service that actually makes a difference to the community that it serves.
And that's all we really want, isn't it? As country people, we just want to be able to see a doctor, get an x-ray, have an ambulance that's going to turn up.
Know that it's there when you need it.
Yeah.
That's all people expect.
Yeah. You're not very old either.
Thank you very much, Jade. But
well, you're not.
I am.
You're not much older than I am.
It's all relatively. It's interesting. We've got a whole different range of ages now, I think, within the Nationals, which is really interesting. But I don't judge anybody any differently for their age. I think we all bring something slightly different to the table, and it's a good mix.
It is. We've got millennials. We've got some Gen Z.
Yeah.
Z. Oh, yeah, we better say Gen Z. Well, you've just had a milestone birthday.
I have.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
How old are you?
No, not telling.
Oh, go on. I know how old you are. If you don't want me to give it away,
I don't want to be ageist.
It's on Wikipedia.
We're not ageist, I'm going to say. I'm sure it's publicly available.
Well, it's got no, as you said. No, it's got a 7 in front of it, unfortunately.
Yeah. What do you mean, unfortunately?
Well, it would have been better a 6 again.
No. I'm of the opinion that... Oh, there's the bells.
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't last too long.
No, they won't.
I'm of the opinion that every birthday should be celebrated. Like, you don't know how many you're going to get.
I'm going to have a lot more. My mum turns 98 in about 10 days.
Really?
So
where is she?
she's in Canberra where my sisters are.
Yeah.
She's in care now, but it's only been in care for about 18 months. So
wow.
Her parents both lived to be 99. That was the Grinter side. The Walsh side have all been well into their 80s, so you're stuck with me around for a while yet.
Say, jeepers. So that means you're not going.
Good genetics, yeah.
Yeah. When we were talking about before the evolution of the Victorian Nationals, we now have more women sitting in that party room than we do men, and we don't have quotas. Do you think that's because of just the natural evolution of the communities and the women that have come before us, perhaps. Like, I know that I've identified different women that I take leadership from, and I know that if they hadn't have done, Yvonne Jennings is one that springs to mind, Maren Chandler's another one. If they hadn't have done what they did, I wouldn't be sitting here because I wouldn't have had the confidence. Because, again, if you can't see it, you can't be it.
No, it was actually a very deliberate strategy to go out and recruit.
You're not telling me there was actually quotas, are you?
No, there's no quotas. No, and no one supports quotas.
No.
But we had a few of us, myself particularly, set out with a deliberate strategy to modernise and make the party more diverse, both gender and history, careers, whatever. No, it was a very deliberate strategy to actually mentor, to develop people that could be winnable candidates. It didn't happen without effort, but we've been blessed. We've been absolutely blessed with the calibre of people we've had come in.
You're welcome.
That's all right.
You created all of that though, Peter. Like I came in 2018, and I came in with Steph, who's the former deputy leader of the Nationals, and both of us came in.
You came in 2014, actually.
I was going to say, you've been in here longer than that.
Oh, yeah, that's 3. That's right.
Yeah.
I must have wiped 4 years of opposition.
There's 4 years you've lost there.
I did. So we came in 2014. But if it wasn't for your support, along the whole journey, because it is quite confronting. Coming from a role where you're CEO of a public hospital, there's no turning back from that. Like, I cannot go back to a job in the public sector when you're putting your name up. And I think for women in particular, when you have a focus on all the different aspects of your life, that can be very confronting. But your support of me was amazing, and I can't thank you enough. So while you talk about it in terms of if it was a strategy, you were very supportive and warm and encouraging of women within the party. And I'm not sure we would have a majority of women in the party if it wasn't for your efforts to do that.
I appreciate the comment, but it has been, there's others involved too. It never can happen by one person, but it just takes a bit of leadership and a bit of push. And that's all this talk about from the Liberals and the Labor Party, particularly about quotas, and you've got to do this and you've got to do that. You've actually just got to go out and actually recruit people, good people, that are viable to win a seat. It's simple as that. It's not. There's no rocket science.
No, it really isn't. And this is the thing that I think stunned me. Like, it's actually pretty simple. Like, people in this place clearly envy the Nats because we're all just normal people trying to do the right thing for our communities rather than get involved in any sort of drama. But when you talk about it was a strategy, was it to modernise the party? You've been there a long time. Was that hard as the leader? Because change is not easy for most people.
Well, no. Well, as you probably understand, it's bringing any leadership change is about bringing people with you. So no, there's moments. There's always moments, but you've just got to, if you're determined to do it, it happens.
Trust the process.
Yep.
I don't know whether it was modernising though. That feels like we were dated at some point in time.
It's probably not a good choice of words, but it's not.
2018 wasn't a great year though.
No, 2000, and we didn't have good candidates, with all due respects to the ones we had, and our Liberal colleagues were very ordinary. But that just made me even more determined that we did it better next time.
Yeah, right.
Welcome, Jade.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to have you with us.
It's wonderful to be here. It really is. Let's talk about some of the projects because being in Parliament, we've actually got to get back in there pretty shortly because there's all sorts of moving parts tonight. Can we talk about the Save Our Bacon campaign, which just for Mildura, because I think this is another thing that we need to talk about with the Nats, is that we understand that, yes, country is different from the city and we need maybe different policies for regional and metro, but all of the communities across the state are completely different. Mildura is completely different to Lowan. It's completely different to Murray Plains. I'm going to take a bit of creative license with the Save Our Bacon campaign, which is about the pig industry, because for my people up in the Great Northwest, it's Save Our Salami, which is actually a bit of a... I was saying to Emma before, it's actually a bit of a cultural practice for the Italian community, especially, that long weekend in June to come together and as a family and make salamis for 2 or 3 days. It's actually pretty significant, so I'm taking some creative license.
That's why the King has a birthday, isn't it? So people can do that.
Absolutely. Obviously, the King's got a lot to do with us Italians making salami, obviously. We recognise his birthday and we celebrate accordingly. by mixing pork on a table that's lined with plastic. Honestly, it's an eye-opener. But let's talk about the Save Our Bacon.
It's as much as that. And I think it is that pork is a really important food for our communities. And, you know, you talk about salami for your communities, pork dumplings, like that's synonymous with so many communities and other important pork dishes. Christmas ham, we've just been through that Christmas period. And look, there's probably nearly a whole mini religion about an egg and bacon sanger after the morning after when people are feeling a little bit dusty. So I feel like that might be a little bit of a cultural thing as well.
Yeah,
but
or a ham and cheese croissant.
A ham and cheese croissant. The whole.
Did you just say croissant?
Croissant.
No, you're a Nat. Surely it's croissant.
Cultured. We just talked about how cultured we are.
Exactly.
But yeah, what we've got at the moment is a Labor government that is extraordinarily transactional, and what they are willing to do is trade off what Victorians like to do as part of their culture and their custom and even what they put in their mouth for votes. And that is very, very problematic because we know in the lead up to election, a lot of deals are done with the Greens, they're done with Animal Justice Party, as I said in last election, around preference deals, particularly which impacts on the upper house. And it's problematic when you've got a government that's willing to sell off people's rights that they enjoy. That shouldn't happen as any government. And so the government, currently we have a pig welfare inquiry through the Parliament. The Labor MPs have agreed to an extensive range of approving and actually having an inquiry into aspects of the processing of pigs for food, because basically the Animal Justice Party and animal activists who are vegan activists who don't want you to eat meat in the first place are trying to shut down what is otherwise an industry which abides by world-leading quality standards and best practice. It's a real problem that we've got, and it is a huge risk at the moment, not just through this pig welfare inquiry, but also through upcoming legislation, the Animal Care and Protection Act as well.
Yeah, and we've got Mildura Abattoirs is just about to kick off full-scale production again, which is, you know, we don't want them to be in danger or their business to be in danger, because it's already hard enough to do business in Victoria as it is.
Oh, absolutely. And we know Labor can't manage projects, they can't manage money, and we just don't know what they're going to do with the food industry. They can't be trusted around that. So it's really important for your communities who love their salami or whatever pork or meat product it is. It might be eggs in the morning, it might be their dairy products. There is a real attack on agriculture at the moment. We need to be really careful about it.
Particularly animal agriculture.
Absolutely.
It's about, as Emma said, it's about the activists.
Yeah.
Who and you know they are actually terrorists. They are there to disrupt, cause trouble, invade, trespass, steal, do whatever to disrupt animal agriculture in particular, and
just shut it down.
And and their aim is to close down the pig industry. So pork is the second biggest protein consumed in Victoria after chicken.
Wow.
It's not going to stop people eating it, but it'll come from interstate or overseas.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll start importing it.
More of it. We already import a lot. So jobs will go. So, you know, this is just crazy.
Yeah.
Whether it's bacon, whether it's your Christmas ham, whether it's your salami.
Well, imagine what would happen there'd be riots if you tried to stop salami weekend.
Well, I don't think people realise yet, which is why Emma started the campaign to save our bacon.
Yeah, save our salami. I'll put the link up on the website. In fact, I think it's already up there. Because this would be, and there's a word for it that I hear often, or in fact there's two words that members of my community have been saying for years now about the Labor government, and that's, you know, ultimately they're socialists. They don't want us to be able to do whatever we can, and they want to shut down private business. Yeah. That's how growers feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's true.
Yeah.
They're only interested in big business, unions and Labor governments. They're not interested in mum and dad people.
No.
Well, and the money that goes between it. So if you have a big business, the business is more likely to have a unionised workforce. The more union members, the bigger the donations to the Labor Party, so that they have more money to win the next election. It is a hideous cycle, and we see it over and over again through legislation that comes before the Victorian Parliament. And Victorians who... they're the ones who miss out. They're the ones who miss out in their schools, their roads, their hospitals. It's not good enough, and we need to see a massive change in Parliament and in government. That's how we're going to achieve it. Yeah. Get you on the other side of the chamber, Jade.
Yeah. Well, do you think that's possible?
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's the most direct answers anyone's ever heard come out of two politicians, isn't it?
It is. It will happen.
It will happen.
It will happen.
I certainly hope it does, because it's really it's actually terrifying. And we could sit here and talk about this all day, but we do have to get back up there.
Well, I think it will happen because people are the most sensitive body. The nerve in the human body is the hip pocket nerve, and people's hip pocket is being hit by this government every day now.
Yeah,
and that's what will bring them down.
Yeah.
That people had accommodated their things that we've talked about, but now it's got personal, and it's affecting your mortgage. It's affecting the cost of sending kids to government schools, the cost of a doctor's appointment, you name it. They got their hand in your pocket, taking it out of your wallet, and that's what voters will see, and that's why there will be a change.
I certainly hope you're right. Really quickly, people also say you guys can't do anything. You're in opposition. Agree, disagree?
Strongly disagree.
Absolutely disagree.
Me too. Great. I'm glad we're all on the same page. We've got to get back into the chamber, but we'll continue this conversation in a few weeks because we've got a few other people to chat to and things as well. We're not going to make it all political because we need to chat to some community people. But thank you both for your time.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for doing this, Jade.
I'm a team player, and this is actually like knitting for me, sitting down and editing podcasts. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Jade.
Tim Bull, or Bully as he's affectionately known, member for Gippsland East and the Shadow Minister for Veterans Affairs and a few other portfolios. His hobby is researching war history and trekking the Kokoda Trail. We talk to Bully next about setting up a scholarship to do just that in Mildura, and also visiting Villas Brittano over the Anzac Day period.
East or south?
East.
I get you and Danny mixed up all the time.
Well, you shouldn't. He's the one with no hair.
I know that, but how do I am very much a rote learner. How do I associate the bald head with Gippsland South?
Just think the good-looking ones the farthest away. So I'm at the very, very east. I'm the easternmost. The good-looking one's east.
Yeah, but that relates in no way. Is there a way to associate good-looking with...
Assuming we're not on air yet, are we?
No, we are.
Oh, we are, right.
Tim Bull, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
I wanted to chat to you because we've had a bit of chat locally about sister city relationships with, in particular, Villiers Brittano recently. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the trip that you do to Kokoda each year.
Yeah, amazing trip. So what we do, Jaden, and as we've discussed, very keen to get your area involved in this, but I first trekked Kokoda. I'll try and keep this as short as I can so not to bore people, but I first trekked Kokoda in 2015. One of the things I knew the story of the trail. One of the things I wasn't fully aware of was that the 39th Battalion and the 2nd 14th were raised from Victoria and predominantly country Victoria, and they're men from our communities. So I have a number of men from Gippsland East who are still laying over there in the Bamana War Cemetery, a lot that served and came home, obviously with the scars of war. But I do in my spare time a lot of research on our soldiers, and one of the things that I've discovered is that as far as the 39th Battalion goes, which was a militia battalion, a huge representation from Mildura area, which I've spoken to you about. Yeah. So, working through those names and reading about what happened at each location, continually popping up is Mildura, is Irimple, is Redcliffs, is your entire area. There must have been a major recruiting drive at the time because it was quite common for people from different towns, from the same town, to be allocated, or the same region and town to be allocated to the same battalion. So the Mildura area had a massive representation in the 39th and also a very strong representation in the 2nd 14th. So your guys, your men from your communities, were front and centre in the Battle of Kokoda. And the thing that I guess doesn't frustrate me about Kokoda, but one of the challenges we have is everyone knows the story of Gallipoli.
Yes.
They generally know what happened there with the landings and the fight with the Turks on the beach and the subsequent months. At Gallipoli we were fighting for the Pommies and we got done. At Kokoda we were fighting for Australia, to defend Australia, and we won. And they were blokes from our community at the forefront, raised from country Victoria. So every year we raise quite a bit of money. It's up to about 40 to 50,000 now to take 7 kids from our electorate. I shouldn't call them kids. Year 11 adults, young adults to... so they can walk in the footsteps of men from their community. So what they do is we take them to the locations where people from their community died or fought. We explain to them what happened. We trek the whole trail, the 120 Ks, and then we take them to the Bamana War Cemetery with a photo of that soldier from their town. And they go and make a commitment to that soldier for the rest of their life. And it's very emotional for the kids. It makes them grow up very quickly. We've now got... obviously, we have students coming now from Wangaratta. We've got Euroa this year. Warrigal's been long-standing. We've also got Chuka, Rochester, Moama coming, and we really want to get into Mildura because, as you and I have discussed, and I know you're keen to do this, massive representation from your area, and it's something that our younger generation need to know about. Wasn't that long ago. And these guys gave their lives so we can enjoy the lifestyles we do today. And the young people of Mildura need to know about that more than they do.
Yeah, that's it. And I suppose the other thing, there is a little bit, we've got the 2OTU, the Air Force training, there's a museum set up there, there's the war cemetery. So there are a lot of people that are connected with war history in Mildura. And like you said, the family names and the families on war cemeteries overseas. But it's something, they're stories that we have to keep telling.
Yeah, they are. And look, I've had so many encounters where we find out about these men and their relations and their extended family is still living in the area, and they don't know the story because when the guys got home, they didn't talk about it. So we had one young girl who won a scholarship, and after she applied and won the scholarship to go to Kokoda, a couple of weeks after she won it and before we left, her grandfather died. And it was only at his funeral, between her winning the scholarship and then trekking Kokoda, did she find out he fought on the Kokoda Trail.
Oh, you're kidding?
No, so they knew he was in New Guinea, but he would never speak about his, what he saw, what he endured, and it was hell on earth, basically. It was hell on earth. Yeah. And we go over and it's more of a pilgrimage rather than a trek. We walk in their footsteps. Yeah,
well, that was very much... the people, not just the men, but the people of that time, wasn't it? They just did not talk. And even in my family as well, when you start reading about my great-grandfather, for example, fought on the Western Front, but was a very sick man. He'd been gassed a couple of times, never, ever, ever spoke about why he couldn't handle the farm when he got home. So, it's no wonder that families don't know their own connections.
Yeah, that's right. And a big part of it was, obviously that generation not talking too much, but there was also the situation of they wanted to forget about what they'd endured. So, them talking about what they'd been through only relived a lot of those memories for them. So that was obviously a very confronting and difficult scenario for those individuals as well.
Yeah, the whole lot, and I've not been to Kokoda, my husband's been, but I would imagine the thought of, and I know what it's like for me now giving Anzac Day addresses and how my voice shakes, and it's had to be the first time I did it a few years ago before I was in this role, talking about a man, I'd never met Grandad Peirce, but just having that and seeing his photo on Anzac Day, that's emotional enough. Yeah. Being in the actual spot and even going to the war cemetery ceremonies on Anzac Day, I find all that stuff, I find it really hard to keep together. Going to Kokoda with a photo is...
Well, I basically cry every day over there. But
tough bloke like you, Bully.
Yeah, and it's not over being so fat that the physical challenge is extraordinarily difficult. It's the emotion. It really does touch at the heartstrings. So the thing that I get the most pleasure out of is seeing the kids change and mature. But the other element of it is when we contact some of these families and they find out that they, granddad or their great uncle or whoever it is, their connection is a hero, and that's what they are. These men are heroes.
Oh, all of them are heroes.
it just opens up a whole new world to them, and to see them then get immersed in wanting to find out more is very rewarding. You know, to be able to help them stick their toe in the water that's opened their eyes to what's gone on. And there's so many families
So many.
that we, you know, where the younger generation don't know what granddad or great granddad did, and it's not their fault so much.
No.
It is that great granddad or great granddad didn't want to tell their story.
No.
But, you know, times have changed. The one thing I think we can do as society, the one thing we can do is never forget their service. And that's what I guess is the backbone to everything that we're doing. We're trying to educate a new generation. And, you know, it's taken me a bit by surprise, because we had a story on Channel 9 last year, and then we had calls from Chuka, you know, can we get involved in this? And Wedderburn are going to come on board next year, and Mildura are going to come on board next year with your help. And I know it's an area of passion for you. But yeah, it'll be great. And you'll be joining us next year on the trek as well, Jade.
Yes. Well, I was planning on joining you this year. However, like I said earlier, the Villiers-Bretteau issue arose. Now, just to give you a bit of background story, because you wouldn't read our local paper, I guess. You don't read the wrong.
Know a little bit about it, but yeah.
So the Swan Hill Rural City Council had voted. There was 2 invitations, because there's 2 sister cities, one to Yamagata, one to Villiers-Bretteau. Obviously, I have a close connection with Villiers-Bretteau because my granddad purse fought there.
Yep.
It wasn't there that he was awarded the military medal, but anyway, that's a whole nother story. We could talk about this on another episode.
Yes.
Very close to Anzac Day.
Yes.
Anyway, the council originally elected to not send the mayor, and it's the 40th anniversary and the Robin Mail centenary. Instead, sent him only to Yamagata at his own expense, mind you. So I was a little bit enraged. I just thought, this is, given it's such a significant year and such a significant... I think sometimes the sister city relationships get forgotten about too. So I put up my hand and went, you know what, I'll go. I'll go. Anzac Day in Villiers-Bretteau would be incredible. Anyway, I've never been there. My parents have. So that is the situation. I'm actually meeting with the association next week. So if they don't want me to go... Because the mayor, that all led to, because I went to the media with it, because it happened in December. So I went to the media, you know, as you do in this role, you use the media to the best of your advantage. They end up calling a special meeting after all that and reversing their decision. So the mayor's now going to Villiers-Bretteau.
So we've ended up with the right outcome.
We've ended up with the right outcome. If they don't want to go, can I still sign up for Kokoda this year, or is it too late to get the scholarship up and going?
No. It's probably, the scholarship takes a little bit of organising in the first year. It's probably not too late, but you could also, you know, depending on how you're going. Basically, it costs about $6,500 to send a student.
Yep.
So if you can come up with $6,500, we can send one. If you come up with 13, we send 2. It's as simple as that.
So that could come from local RSLs, from local businesses that want to get behind it.
We get a lot of support from our local RSLs. We get a lot of support. I wrote to 18 businesses and 15 asking for $1,000. 15 said yes.
Oh, 15 grand
15
straight up.
grand straight
Wow.
up. RSLs have come on because they can see the benefit of it.
Oh,
a lot
of course.
of people give money to charity and to community things, and without being disrespectful, they don't see the outcome. Here they see the outcome.
Yeah.
The students come back and talk at Remembrance Day, Anzac Day. It changes them. They talk to their school assemblies. So you're investing in your future leaders in your own community. We get the Freemasons come on board. We've got some charitable entities have come on board. We have local op shops have donated some money,
Op
service
shops
clubs.
are so good for giving back to the community.
So all those things, I was worried my plan was to send 3 students a year, which is about 20 grand. My great concern was, how am I going to raise 20 grand every year? We're now, you know, sending 7 kids without a problem.
Wow. From Gippsland East?
From East Gippsland, alone.
Wow. So if I was to sort of say to, you know, Redcliffe Senior College, Irimple and Mildura, or the senior college.
Yep. Well, as I said to you earlier, your community is represented more than any other community. This needs to be in your patch more than anywhere else.
Say, it kind of needs to happen.
So your kids from Irimple and Redcliffs and Mildura and any of your surrounding communities, they will be visiting the graves. And we'll tell them the story when we're doing the trek of how they died and where they died, because we have that level of detail. And then we will take them back to the cemeteries of your men, and they can go and visit them and talk to them and understand them. Then they become part of a school project. We had one secondary school in East Gippsland. They had no idea, and then they made this soldier their Term 4 history topic.
Wow.
And they studied him, a military medal winner, who won a military medal at Kokoda at a place called Issarava on the Kokoda Trail, and then was killed a fortnight later at Brigade Hill, saving 40 of his mates.
Yeah, right.
So, a hero. Should have got a Victoria Cross, but back in those days, they didn't like to give 2 Victoria Crosses out in the one conflict. It was a bit of a feeling amongst the ranks, but his name was Charlie McCallum, and he should have won one, but... the stories are never ending, and these families are still. What you will find is when you get this up and going, you will find the families of a lot of these men still living in your communities.
Oh, absolutely.
You will find a lot of these families will know the story, but a lot of them won't know. They'll know, we know he fought up in New Guinea or he did something on the Kokoda Trail, but they won't know a lot of the detail because these guys either died over there or when they came back they wouldn't talk.
It's so true because I know my grandfather, my mum's dad, was in Darwin during the Second World War, but none of us have any idea what
that's
actually
right.
happened. Yeah.
And that's what I love doing for families in my spare time. Just getting back to Villers-Britnot quickly, obviously Victoria and Australia has a very, very strong connection with Villers-Britnot. My former boss, his father fought there and he did a trip over there and he came back and said the most touching thing he's ever experienced in his life was they walked into the local primary school at Villers-Britnot. It's not a big town. It's a small community. And the students from grade prep up stood up and sang the Australian national anthem for them in English.
Wow.
And written on the blackboard, it was still a blackboard,
Yeah.
in chalk that, when you write something on a blackboard and you can tell it's been there forever because it's faded and patchy. In big writing up the top right-hand corner of the blackboard was "Never Forget Australia."
Yeah. There's a big sign there too.
So when those kids go to school, they have that appreciation of Australia. So without going into the lead-up of why decisions might have been made locally, that sister city relationship and wider relationship with Villers-Britnot and, the fact that our men are laying there in such great numbers in that vicinity is, you would say that going there would be the highest priority. So if you played some role in overturning that, well done. It needed to happen.
Thank you. And like I said, use whatever levers you can.
Yeah. And it's easy to get passionate.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I get a bit passionate about this sort of stuff and then you sit back and go, did I go a bit hard? But you get caught up in it. It's an emotional and emotive topic.
And this is the thing, and I had this conversation a couple of times. People have said to me, this is a bit of an emotional reaction from you. I'm like, well, yeah, you know what, it is.
It probably is.
It actually is.
Yeah.
Of course, how could it not be?
Well, if honouring your returned servicemen isn't an emotional matter, you haven't got blood running through your veins.
No, that's exactly right. And I feel the same way about Anzac Day, like the dawn services.
Yep.
My kids have attended a dawn service every year of their life, and they will continue to do that. And I have had a little set of Grandad Percy's medals made up for them so they can wear it, and they understand it. But they understand that because it drives me nuts when people go, I'm not getting up that early for a dawn service. I'm like, really? Really? Okay. From your nice comfy bed.
Exactly.
I'm just like, get a bit of perspective, please. The reason you've got a nice comfy bed and can choose to sleep in on Anzac Day is for those that fought for it.
And I'll tell you what, just on that topic, when you do Kokoda with me, whether that's this year or next year, you need to have a bit of a break from the electorate office just for a few days afterwards. It's very difficult. I find it very difficult. You're hearing these stories of this hardship and this extraordinary effort against the odds and in these horrible circumstances and horrific things that happened, to then come back and be dealing with someone who's got a complaint about a crack in the footpath out the front.
Yes, that's a council
I
thing
just
anyway.
find myself for a week, I can't deal. I'm going to say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So just staff, can you deal with this one for a moment?
Yes.
Perspective.
Yeah.
It is about perspective. And a trip like that makes you realise that the really small things in life don't really matter that much. It really does give you a great level of perspective. So, I've just got back from the Burma Railway.
That's right. Yeah,
it was there just over a week ago. And, that's another one where visited the graves of local blokes from my electorate. You hear how they died, cholera, dysentery, malaria in the jungle, and you're walking
really
along the
stuff.
trail. You're walking along the railway line, which is now, 3/4 of it overgrown by jungle and not used anymore. And you're just thinking, these men died on the side of these tracks, being bloody whipped and bashed by the Japanese and Korean guards, and you come back into the office and you stand up and you're in the chamber and people are carrying on about, not to say there's not a lot of important issues, there are, but the petty stuff, you just think, can we move on and worry about the real things in life?
Well, that's it. And then when you come back and you might have some colleagues worrying about stuff that ultimately doesn't
matter.
Anyway. Yeah. Well, Bully, thank you very much. You obviously take that shadow portfolio of Veterans Affairs very, very seriously.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. We'll put out a media release and we'll start work on getting these scholarships up as soon as possible. I'll let you know how the outcome of the meeting is next week, whether I go to Villiers Brittano or Kokoda this year. It'll be one or the other. I can't afford to do both. I'm not made of money.
Yeah. Well, I think, obviously we get a parliamentary travel allowance. Now, I don't use mine because I did the first time I went to Kokoda.
Yep.
But I think this is the sort of thing that our electorates and our taxpayers, having your local MP educated on this sort of stuff and understanding, it gives you really good perspective for your job.
Yeah.
So this is the sort of worthwhile and worthy trip that MPs should be using for an experience, not some fluffy thing to go and study, some rubbish thing as an excuse for a trip somewhere.
To go and study kangaroos in New York.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me a break.
This is real.
Yep.
This is important stuff. It is critically important stuff. And, I would think that would certainly pass the test. So, I'm encouraging as many MPs as well as all the school kids we take. We're up to probably 5 MPs this year that we're going to take. I've had, some have put their hand up, some have taken a bit of talking into it, but they need to get it and they need to understand it and they need to appreciate it.
Yeah.
How would, those men, we're standing up in the Parliament every day. This was the National Parliament where the decision to go to the Great War was made in our chamber because it was the Federal Parliament.
It was.
In 1915. We need to be big on that stuff.
Yeah, we do.
We do.
We need to maintain it too. Like you said,
of course we do.
And keep educating tomorrow's leaders so we never, ever...
Never forget. Never forget.
Bully, thank you very much.
Pleasure, Jade.
So there you have it. The Nats are pragmatists that stand for common sense. Doesn't sound that bad, does it? Speaking of common sense, next week I have a chat with Uncle Colin Clark, a Barkindji elder, about all sorts of things, including growing up in a family of 14, driving sheep as a 16-year-old, duck hunting, kangaroos, ghosts, and the justice system. Until then, if you need to contact me, you can do so through the office at 35A Deakin Avenue, Mildura, or via the website jadebenham.com.au.